All right, I am here with Julia Dietrich, who is the co-producer, co-editor,
Mhm.
uh, and has helped with writing and just like everyone else, wearing many hats on this production.
Yeah.
You were the first person to join the
hmm
post-production team.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you've kind of like so you were as soon as I like finished my cut, which is like I originally thought I'd be editing this movie because I was like I didn't.
hmm
I thought this was just going to be this very, very stripped down, like
Yeah.
um, pretty much doing most of the stuff myself. And then at a certain point, I was like, I think there's more to this. I think if I get a real team together and really start rethinking things, that this could be really special. So I started a series of like, um, I guess like interviews with editors, or just meetings, and not really expecting a lot of interest, but um, I think that was for me a very validating process where I like met a lot of people who like wanted to
hmm
help out with the film, saw a lot of potential in the script and the rough cut. And my meeting with you was like somewhere in the middle of all of this. And you were the first person I was like,
Yeah.
definitely want this person on board. And I feel like we were still figuring out like how to place you. But
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, what was that like for you, I guess, from
It
joining?
was um definitely a little unconventional because I think you were originally just looking for like that one editor, right? You were just kind of hoping to have like one editor take the reins on, and then I think after I came along, you started wanting to I think you started realizing this would require a much larger team than just one person. And so there was a lot of sort of, I think, back and forth of like, well, do we keep looking for other people? Do we try to do it with one person? Are we gonna find someone else for, not just editing, but then like color grading something? There's a lot like I think that came up after our meeting
Yeah.
that I think neither one of us really expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I've mentioned this before too that I really like don't know much about editing from a technical standpoint. I like went to film school and learned how to edit, so I feel like I'm like
hmm
competent, but I don't know like even just working with proxies was like a really, really big realization where I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
can have a lot of people working on this together at the same
hmm
time instead of
Yeah.
24 terabyte drives. So originally I only had one of those, and I think eventually got a second one because I was like, all right, well, I'll have an editor and an assistant editor. But I think, I mean, well, first I should say like a big part of the reason that I wanted you to come on board is that your meeting was the only meeting that actually ended with like creative. I knew this movie would to reach its potential, it was going to require some like creative restructuring.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the footage was like 80% there, but I was like,
Mhm.
there's still a lot we can do.
Yeah.
With ADR,
Mhm.
I can still shoot stuff. I own all the equipment. So I didn't rent anything.
Yeah.
The Airbnb that we shot at is like right down the house. Or, I mean, it's a little 10 minutes for me. So I knew there was like a lot that we could do. Um, and I think that, yeah, by the end of our meeting, we had like basically reimagined an entire new opening. And
Yeah.
that very much, having gone through like 40 of these meetings, that really stood out for me, where I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted you to be a part of this. And then
Mhm.
I think you even like started coming to the like meetings with me after that. Um,
Yeah, I came to a few after that.
yeah,
Yeah, like that was very unexpected for myself. Like I didn't go into that meeting already thinking about how to change the opening with like notes about the opening. Like I think I came into it probably how a lot of the other editors like more basic general kind of notes. And as we started talking and you sort of expressed the frustration with the opening that it's not quite hitting the mark,
yeah,
I think that just kind of it just kind of got the wheels turning and playing around with the AI bit was a lot of fun with like Alan's character and how can we like use that in order to bring the audience up to speed on Alan as a character, on like Charlie's backstory and sort of the tone of the whole film. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It completely just, I wasn't going into it with that idea. It just sort of sparked, I think, through our conversation, and it just kept going and going and going. I think we talked for like 2 hours by the
Yeah.
end of that.
Yeah, I think what what really helped is that I know that you have like a writing, directing,
Yeah.
producing background. Like
Yeah.
you've worn a lot of hats before. You're familiar with like film production. Um,
Yeah.
so I think most people I was meeting with were like either strictly editors or
Hmm.
very much looking for just editing work, whereas
Yeah.
um, you offered what I really needed at that time, which was like not just an editor.
Yeah.
This wasn't your traditional editing gig. I needed to rethink things, and I
Hmm.
think part of the key was realizing that we could just utilize like ADR basically in ways to create new,
Yeah.
completely
Hmm.
scenes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I would say like I think there's definitely a skill you develop while being on set where you have to think quickly and make that thinking creatively as well in order to, because so many problems come up on set. You got to fix that. You notice like plot holes while filming, you got to fix that, or like something doesn't go the way you thought it would. So now you have to redesign or restructure a scene so that it can continue to work throughout the whole movie. So I think just, and you probably, feel that too being on set, right? Like it just, you develop such a, like you sort of rewire your brain to think a certain way about the story that I don't think a lot of maybe traditional editors necessarily develop that as much because they're already getting all of the footage, and then for them it's restructuring what they have and
yeah,
not rethinking of what to do, like what to recreate, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In all fairness, I think most like traditional, like my brother edits TV shows, like
Hmm.
generally speaking, when he's getting footage, I don't think they're like it's generally like put these pieces
Yeah.
together. Like most
Hmm.
professional editing gigs don't really require that sort of thinking. So
Yeah.
you very much have that like sort of indie spirit, which was kind of necessary for this. Uh, and I think that's yeah, I mean, you've been working on this for at least 7 months now.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to just be like, why? But on the other hand, I'm like, you have been essential to this. You have like the editing chops, but I think you've been more helpful as like
Hmm.
I guess like a producer, really. You've been doing a
Yeah.
bit of everything.
Hmm.
And I think you were very humble, I think, from when we first met, where I was like, I want you to be a part of this.
Hmm.
I don't know if you should be the editor, but you clearly have
Yeah.
been an editor.
Hmm.
But I think you've been helping us uh, do a lot of like what we're now kind of pivoting to a little bit, which is like marketing and trying to figure out
Hmm.
how to distribute this movie. And you've been like really helpful with that stuff as well. I really see you as like a producer on this movie more than anything,
Yeah.
what it's worth. Because I and I mean that in not to downplay any of the other skills that you've offered, but like you've just
Hmm.
helped with like a little bit of everything. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I would say that that's a pretty fair assessment. I think just when you do micro budget films, you end up having to take on a lot of the roles yourself. And like you've obviously experienced that doing like 4 different roles for the movie. I've done that on a lot of my own like short films that were like smaller scale, but still like it requires you to end up being a lot of different things. So yeah, I would say that's pretty fair, especially now that we've gone into the whole Kickstarter stuff. I think I've had a much bigger hand in the producing and marketing side of that. Hopefully, once that's done, we get back to the editing a little bit more aggressively, then it'll be a bit more editor hat that'll be put on. Yeah.
yeah, you've been wearing all that, and you're one of the few people in this entire production, post production, and production that actually has a film background. So
Oh, yeah.
you're one of the few people I can actually ask, how did you get into film?
Yeah, that's true. Um, well, yeah, so. I actually started out in film as an actor, yet another hat of mine. I was in high school and I started doing some like acting classes. I really enjoyed it. And one of them was like on screen acting. So we also got to do some writing for that. So that's where kind of it piqued my interest in writing. And I did start doing some editing in high school in my com tech class. So I got to do, work on like how to edit, but also creating my own vision within like certain projects. And then when I went to university, I did sort of a double major of theater and film because I wanted to still like I still thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna be an actor, maybe I'll be a writer. But then as I did more film stuff and I started directing and then eventually having to edit my own films, I started to really develop a passion for that. I wasn't expecting that. I never really thought of myself as wanting to be a director or an editor, but it kind of just took hold on me. And then after university, I was doing like a whole bunch of short films where, again, I was pretty much doing just about everything, maybe minus camera. I usually have a camera guy to do that. And I started to want to get more and more serious with the editing because I really enjoyed it. And I saw a lot of like potential in that area of film too. I think a little bit more even than writing or directing because usually when you have a passion project, you have to do that yourself. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's hard to get people to trust you with that vision as a director unless you're doing it yourself. But editing, there's usually a little bit more flexibility. Um, a lot of like writer directors will, you know, they have the vision, they control it all from the writing and production, but then post-production they want someone to take the reins a little bit more on that, right? Like with this film. So I started going more seriously toward editing, and that's kind of how I stumbled upon your posting for the big break.
Yeah, I think also just the editing part also there's a time component. Like I don't consider myself a
Hmm.
cinematographer, but uh I'm competent at it. So like,
Yeah.
if I could go back and shoot this with a real cinematographer, I would take
Yeah.
seconds, but I can't go back and do that. But editing,
Hmm.
I can actually like, I don't want it to take forever, but we can really take our time and
Yeah.
that's the that's that's a very that's a very different part of making a movie than production because
Yeah.
production you can do some reshoots, but you can't really recreate if you
No.
don't have a budget, you can't really recreate like what you
Hmm.
first shot. But editing, you can really kind of keep hacking at it and be creative and um yeah, I think that it's a different type of skill set for
Hmm.
micro budget movies,
Yeah.
um, and allows you to sort of express
Hmm.
your knowledge of film in a way that like you can do it on your own, you can do it on your own time.
Yeah.
I feel like for people getting into film at a younger age, it's like also like it's just a way to like prove yourself without
Yeah.
requiring other parts. But yeah, I mean you've made quite a few shorts, I think.
Yeah. Quite
Um
a few.
yeah.
Uh,
You're young, like you're already pretty accomplished. Um
Thank you.
and I think yeah, that was like what I feel like in a lot of ways you remind me a little bit of myself when I was like out of film school and
Yeah.
like very like eager to like kind of get in the
Yeah.
industry. And then I got kind of
Yeah.
jaded for a little while and came back. So it's nice to have
Hmm.
somebody that I think has that like that
Hmm.
motivation that reminds me that I had when I was like in my like 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess getting a little hungry to really be a part of a feature film.
Yeah.
Um, because I have done a lot of short films and I have done a couple that were pretty long. Like I've done a 25-minute short film. Um, and I have actually acted in a couple of like micro budget feature films, but I haven't really I've been wanting to be a part of a feature film and then eventually down the road make my own.
Yeah.
And it was inspiring, honestly, like hearing your story of how you came about making this film. Like you had next to no budget and yet you made something so special. And I think it was so cool that you even went out of your way to like to have actors that have never really acted before. But the performances you still got of it were extraordinary. And how interesting you made the story, even though it takes place in a house. And it's mainly just conversations going on, but just what is being said and how the characters clash together, it's still so entertaining and funny. And it was inspiring to see that you don't need a ton to be able to get a lot accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that was like it really was like a 20-year in the making
Yeah.
realization. Um
Mhm.
like I Luke will tell you, Luke who plays Charlie, like acted in
Mhm.
a student film I made like 15 years
Yeah.
ago. It was like my
Hmm.
senior thesis film. And I had like a 20-person crew. I had like
Yeah.
and then they were all film students. It was all like people who were like experienced in film.
Yeah.
And it was like it was fun. I think it was
Mhm.
there's some cool stuff in it, but it wasn't like a cohesive,
Yeah.
like it wasn't something I was
Hmm.
proud of. I never really finished it. And I
Yeah.
think back to that and I'm like, that was kind of the moment I actually realized that not only can you do this with less, sometimes it can be better if you're trying to do a certain
Hmm.
type of film, which I think is
Yeah.
I just had to like find my voice and realize like this
Hmm.
is what I want to do. I want to work with I want to make sure everyone on set is like vital. I want to
Hmm.
make sure that um I get to work with actors who are either not being like typecast or like haven't really had experience before and I can like
Hmm.
direct uh
Yeah.
in a way that's like I don't know, for me very fulfilling. Um but yeah, none of this would have really ever happened if the production didn't go smoothly, which I didn't know it would. But I do think I look back and it's like it's really just a culmination of like having prepared for this in many different
Hmm.
ways. And then realizing like, okay, this is worth getting a post-production team. So
Yeah.
yeah, you were obviously the start of it and you were like as soon as I knew you were on board, I feel like I've very much relied on you to like help me navigate post-production.
Yeah.
And making sure the rest of the team is like
Hmm.
cohesive and I think if this movie goes to that next level, I think my cut was good enough to get you and like our other team on board to just be like, hey, look, guys, like I did something cool.
Yeah.
There's so there's so much more here that we can do with this. So I feel like I at least achieved what I wanted to achieve. But
Hmm.
if we take it to that next level, it's going to be very much because of you and Steven and Saham and yeah. So I think you guys are doing a good job. Well, it's been a very long process.
It's been, it has, and it's like, it feels like we're at a point now where because we've been working on it so long, like we're in it, if that makes sense. Like I want to see this through.
Yeah.
Like too much thought and care has gone into it to not see it through to the end. And like not in a way that's rushed, in a way that it's been elevated and it's exactly what we aim to do.
And I should say that like I think I might have like tapered off at some point or just like kind of lost my motivation or hope. But I think
Mhm.
because I see you guys like still motivated and still going at it,
Mhm.
it really like it really means a lot and it keeps me motivated to keep like believing in this project and
Yeah.
reminding myself that we really do have something
Mhm.
special. And these interviews have like helped
Yeah.
me too, just talking to all the and
Mhm.
just knowing how special of an experience this was for everyone on set and that fact that we like have recreated that in post production,
Mhm.
that like that energy, even though it's been 7 months instead of a 1 week production. But I should say maybe we can talk briefly about like what you've been doing for the past few months and why this has taken so long. I did not have an AC. I had no slate. I had no
Yeah.
codes. I had four lavalier mics and a boom mic. None of them could sing.
Yeah.
So much of this was you guys just organizing everything for me.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, the organizing all the metadata was definitely I don't know if challenge is the right word, but it was a big task.
Yes.
It was a lot of just watching. Organizing the video wasn't as hard. It was when we got to audio
Thinking.
that it became pretty tricky. Even before syncing, just figuring out which audio track went with which video track. And now you're just like listening in for, okay, was that a car that went by the window? Do I hear the car in the audio? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like my ears became very finely attuned to those little things that help distinguish each shot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was coming because I did that to an extent in my cut, even though I
Hmm.
like had associations to help me from shooting,
Yeah.
and it was first
Yeah.
time. I knew it was coming. I tried to warn
Hmm.
you guys, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I hope that like now that that part's done and you guys are getting into the more fun stuff,
Yeah.
I hope it's fulfilling. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you have certainly been like the creative uh uh helper, or I'd say the creative leader in post-production, which I think again, if this movie like if the world gets to see this movie and sees
Hmm.
what is so special about it, a lot of that happened in post-production, and I think
Hmm.
like you really helped bring that creative part to it. That yeah, it would have been it wouldn't work without it. So um,
Appreciate that.
yeah, as do I. And if you're someone I know that I want to work with. Like if we ever get to make more movies, like it's
Likewise.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just ever since that first conversation that like you're there's all it's I feel like I don't know what your experience is like, but for me, like I'm hitting 40 and like it's very hard
Mhm.
creatively to find that type of like brainstorming at my age, and
Yeah.
it's nice to like find that. And I knew like in that meeting, like, okay, this is somebody who's like who gets my style. I get the sense that you have your own style, but you somehow are able to like tap
Yeah.
like what I'm trying to do. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah. I think that maybe comes from just having to, in film school, collaborate with others, or even as an actor, having to then get on the director's wavelength of what their vision is. And it's just trying to understand, like, okay, what are they going for? What's their style? What are they trying to do with this? And then how do I execute that in their vision? So probably some of that helps to sort of get on board quickly than with other people like that I'm working with. And I think after that first meeting when we were talking for a while, like it helps me to just let the person talk, sort of process everything they're saying, and then sort of like a switch happens. And I think that's you saw that where it's like, okay, well, here comes all my,
yeah,
brain thoughts on this.
yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a question that I'm about to ask you from other people that refers
Yeah.
to your nickname that I've given you. But I
Yeah.
want to point out the like acting background. It's something I hadn't thought about, but it's I also like was a child actor, and I do feel like
Hmm.
there's something there that I think really helps. Um, uh, I don't know. I think it's really good for filmmakers to know
Yeah.
to just act like if you haven't acted before,
Hmm.
it just I don't know, put yourself in an acting class and like really understand what it's like
Yeah.
from an acting perspective. Because
Hmm.
if this movie is like in any way like appreciated, it's
Hmm.
gonna be because of these great performances, and
Yeah.
um, knowing how to work with actors is key. And
I agree.
it wasn't just in production, but like, again, like you didn't just help me come up with the opening, but we like worked with Tim, who plays
Hmm.
Alan,
Yeah.
do ADR, and you were very good at like eliciting a good
Hmm.
performance from him. So I think it's a lot
Yeah.
of that comes from like having that acting background. I definitely credit if I'm a good director, that acting is very much from that. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that's part of also why we are able to talk the same language, as we both have like some understanding of acting.
Hmm.
Okay, so a few questions from other people
Okay.
who worked on the movie. From Tanya, who is my wife and the producer. How did you come up with the idea of writing commercial? Oh, so this is something we talked about. Okay. This is another
Yeah.
creative thing that you have contributed that we're still
Mhm.
figuring out. But
Yeah.
Tanya asks, how did you come up with the idea of writing commercials for Charlie? What's your favorite commercial Charlie has done?
I think the idea, it kind of just, I was thinking of ways to keep going with the ADR
Yeah,
from like, because we were going to do that with the opening, just add some ADR. And then, well, Charlie's a voice actor. We've only seen him trying to audition
yeah,
for certain roles. We haven't actually seen some of the roles he might have booked, some commercials. And I kind of just started thinking, well, like what if this was something he was really trying to pursue? What if he had some, early like success at the beginning,
yeah,
right? Kind of like that beginner's luck where you get something pretty quickly and you think, oh, wow, there's some, legitimacy to trying to pursue this. And it probably would have given him a little bit of confidence, a little bit of a push. And I think it would have helped us see Charlie the way he probably views himself if we got to see some of his work. And then there's also something that's kind of very disheartening and tragic, which is, Charlie's story of look what he was able to accomplish and then to have nothing after that. There's something very sad about that. Like, I think also that's what a lot of actors or even creatives experience is like they'll have, even a period where they're booking a lot and then it's just dry and they have no idea why. And
yeah,
it can be very frustrating and you can feel very lost and there's a lot of just trusting the process, but you don't know how long you need to keep trusting it for something to turn around. And then when it does turn around, you don't even know why exactly it turned around. So there's a lot of guesswork in the film industry, but really any creative sort of industry for a lot of artists. And so I thought also like any artist watching this could also really relate to that of having, early successes and then not a series of failures, but just a series of rejection and disappointment. So
yeah.
that's sort of, yeah, that's where that idea sort of sparked from.
I mean, I think it's a very mature way of thinking because I think well,
Mhm.
a lot of this like backstory that we had, a lot of this backstory like Luke and I had talked about, and like it was he put
Mhm.
it in the performance, but we didn't really get to showcase it. And I
Yeah.
think you and I, when we came up with that opening, took some of that. Like the
Mhm.
idea that Alan was Charlie's like voice acting coach was
Mhm.
like an idea we came up with on set, but like you never find out about that in the movie. And we
Yeah.
really ran with it, and I think it like
Mhm.
really turned that into the opening. But we never really talked about like, well, what was Charlie's like um
Journey.
yeah, because failure, and I don't want to say failure, but like rejection is something like that happens slow and it's like
Mhm.
it's a slow burn. You don't feel
Yeah.
in one day. Yes, you'll get like a rejection, but it's like
Mhm.
one after another. And
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that's what I love so much about like that opening that we came up with, that it's just like you and it was always my problem with the opening that I had written and filmed is that it's too happy. It's like too Charlie's too like upbeat. And
Mhm.
we don't get I never felt like I feel like the second half, there's a lot of payoffs that are supposed to come from Charlie, like having gone through so much rejection.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I never had that in the first half. And so I think the new opening and I think exploring these like commercials was a really good way to like, okay, this is new stuff we can do. Uh,
Yeah.
doesn't require like we can film commercials
Mhm.
and get the ADR. And yeah, yeah, it's something that we're still exploring. So
Yeah.
won't go into too much detail about it, but I think
Yeah.
it's gonna. I hope that it finds its way into this movie in like uh,
Mhm.
in the right way. But we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've done a great job with it so far, and I think nailed the like um not just like the content of the commercials and hitting like the tone of my writing. That I
Mhm.
like I don't really need to like yeah you're very much earning an additional writing credit by doing this stuff because
Hmm.
you are writing these, and you're also very much thinking about it like thematically too, and how it ties into like um,
Yeah.
the complexity of Charlie. Just one of the commercials is like something very outdoorsy, and I think that that
Hmm.
was a very clever way of like, um,
Sort of contrasting where he is now in his like little bubble in the
yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think it's something that I think has also come up in my conversations with Luke and Trevor is that I think Charlie and Travis can very much come off as like uh I don't know, Trevor said something where like everyone is Travis. And I was like, that's if we could somehow get that like feeling of relatability
Yeah.
to both Charlie and Travis, because I feel like a lot of people like will scoff at the idea of like, oh, an AI partner, or scoff at the
Mm.
idea of, like social media addiction. But to
Yeah.
realize how like susceptible we are to this,
Yeah.
close we are, I don't know. My goal is like that these characters are much more real and complex than and relatable than you might think. And I don't know. I don't know. It's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it does relate to like giving more backstory and
Hmm.
that's what we've really been trying to do in post-production, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Um, okay. Steven asks, name a film that goes underlooked from a storytelling perspective and why.
Let me think. Um, so there is a film I watched a couple years ago with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, I think, called The Banshees of Inisherin.
That's such a good movie. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I loved that movie. Like I think I watched it like twice in the same week when I first came across it. And what I love so much about it is the simplicity of it.
Yeah,
Like just the like at its core, it's really like two friends who have kind of grown, like one friend has outgrown the other. That's essentially like the plot of the story. But the way in which he went about it, I thought was just so clever. I think we've all sort of felt that kind of rejection and that hurt when you realize you're not as close to someone who you were once like the closest with.
yeah,
There's something that's very raw about that. And also just have how stripped down like where it took place, the setting, this little like island off the coast of Ireland,
yeah,
and then also using the Civil War that was going in Ireland to thematically parallel or mirror then the struggle going on between the two friends. I thought was very clever. And I honestly also wasn't expecting to. There's a little bit of like a thriller aspect in the movie, like with the self-mutilation
yeah,
and just how far
yeah,
this guy was to keeping this other once friend away from him, and just all the like the pain and sorrow. And I thought it was also really interesting how ego played a role in it. So Brendan Gleeson's character, like he has all this ego of like, I want to be remembered for my music.
yeah,
And but it's interesting though, he wants to be remembered for his music, but he's willing to like mutilate himself to the point where he wouldn't even be able to play anymore
yeah,
just to get away from his friend. And just the self-sabotage and self-destruction that goes on between them two is it's very interesting. I loved how it all played out, and I also thought the dialogue itself was very sort of lyrical.
yeah.
There was a pace and a music to the dialogue, which I absolutely love too.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those movies that I think you could just study forever because it's
Yeah.
so nebulous in terms of like
Hmm.
what is this friendship? Uh
Yeah.
like why is Brendan Gleeson going so far as to like mutilate himself to not
Yeah.
associate it with Colin Farrell? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's such a good it's such a good film. and it's like Martin McDonagh is like, so I actually
Mhm.
studied in Ireland. I studied screenwriting for a semester and
Oh,
like
okay.
read Martin McDonagh. I saw Martin McDonagh
Yeah.
perform like his plays in Ireland. Uh,
Oh,
I was a huge fan of his plays. They're escaping me now, but like I remember studying them before he made films, and then he made like In
hmm.
Bruges and like Seven Psychopaths, and like
Yeah.
they're okay. I wasn't a huge fan. I know a lot of people like In Bruges, but I think Banshees of uh, in
Inisherin.
Inisherin was like, yes, this guy figured out film and
Yeah.
put his like writing chops into a film,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
the simplicity and like
Hmm.
it is just this like really this relationship between these two friends that is like disintegrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie too. That's a good example. Um, and it's a great example of like a writer, a playwright. I think figuring out
Hmm.
like film.
Yes. Yeah. Especially just like in like you can see it in the dialogue that this guy was a playwright first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of like screenwriter first would necessarily write in the same way, like have that style within their own dialogue. So it's very yeah, it's very interesting.
Lyrical is the right way to put it. I mean, that's always like Irish literature, like James Joyce is
Mm-hmm.
always there's something so lyrical about
Yeah.
well-written Irish like
Yeah.
expressions.
And
The
yeah,
language English from like the Irish perspective is just beautiful when
it
it's
is. Yeah.
in the right hands. There's a reason why there's so many like famous Irish writers.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that movie does it well.
Mm.
Um, okay, the last question is also from Steven.
Okay.
This we talked about is your nickname. Avi refers to you as the sleeping giant. Is your brain wired to gather as much information as you can during a conversation? Then that final 20 minutes, all your ideas pour out. I just have to know how you do it. And the little bit of context here is we already talked about
Yeah.
this, but in our first meeting, I think for like the first 20 or 30 minutes, I'll be very transparent. Like you were
Yeah.
young, I had met with like,
Hmm.
a lot of experienced editors. You hadn't like said much, and I was kind of like, I think there was a point where I was just kind of like, all right, she's probably not going to be working on the film. But
Yeah.
uh, I think that there was like you said, like a switch clicked, and you just started like all
Mm.
this started coming out of you, and it was like, oh, wait a second, like she's really been thinking about this a lot.
Yeah.
But um, you you kind of it all kind of came out at once. So I've called you
Hmm.
Sleeping Giant. And I think
Yeah.
you've lived up to that name throughout these past 7 months as well.
Yeah, it's not something I plan. Um, when I was like it might be something just how my brain is wired because my parents would say when I was like even just 2 years old, I would sit in a room and just be watching everyone and observing. Like I've always been I guess an observant person. I'd like to sort of get the lay of the land first, figure out sort of where people are at, just figure out their vibe. And then once I guess I've sort of accumulated enough data
Yeah.
and then like processed it, uh, and I feel like where I'm at a point where I understand it, I guess, a little bit better, then my brain will start working up with like the ideas and then they'll start like just churning out. So I think that's why I kind of at the beginning just let you tell me about the film, about the making of the film, what you were looking for, just so I get all the context and then I can actually start making, I guess, more my thinking is a little more efficient, I think, than in that way. Instead of just trying to spurn out random thoughts at the beginning without having that context.
Yeah. And
Makes
I think it's
sense.
why we play well off of each other because I'm kind of the opposite in that like I my strategy is just to be I almost purposefully try to like um I don't know the right way to put this, but I try to be vulnerable when I meet people
Mhm.
from the beginning, just so that they feel comfortable. And sometimes
Yeah.
that will result in me just like talking and talking and like
Yeah.
nothing really coming out at a certain point. And I
Yeah.
usually call it like the kitchen sink, where I just kind of throw out all my ideas. Um,
Hmm.
and it doesn't work for everyone. But I think um, the goal is for me to make like people comfortable and like being like, all right, if he's gonna be vulnerable, I can be vulnerable. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, you like you somehow worked very well with that, where like you allowed me to, I guess, throw the kitchen sink out, where I just kind of threw
Hmm.
all ideas at you, and you like
Yeah.
kind of collected them and like
Yeah.
very much um like built off of it
Hmm.
without getting like overwhelmed by the like information overload.
I think we're kind of the same in the sense that we like to see all of our options.
Yeah.
And I think I would, yeah, some people do get overwhelmed by that, but I think just tell me everything, and then from there I can start organizing it and actually like start thinking about it in a much more like holistic, full way
Yeah.
than to just try to do it in like small sections where, well, that idea might not work because of this new information that, and I think that's also just again where the writing and directing part comes from because we have to see films as a whole from the start to the end
Mhm.
rather than just looking at it at one stage. So yeah, so I'm definitely someone that just like if you ever see my notes, like there's scribbles, they're all over the place, but then from there I can take everything and direct it towards a much more cohesive
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, and I think that's why this movie, if it, again, if it does work out, I think it's actually because of the limitations. And this is a lot of people kind of say like
Hmm.
limitations help creativity. Um,
Definitely, yeah.
I think it's for people like you and I who like to see all the options, having those limitations is really good because you could just keep going. And so
Hmm.
knowing that I had to write this script and that I could only put a few people in one location, like it actually helped me write something
Hmm.
where I really had to like bring these characters to life. And in the post-production process, like just knowing the limitations of what we can get forced us to come up with like a creative opening, um, and be creative. And I think now that like we're starting to like put deadlines on ourselves, I think it's going to help a
Yeah.
lot because I do
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
all have that a little bit. Like you, me, Steven, everyone who's involved right now in like putting the final film together, we all kind of like
Yeah.
we want to think through everything, and
Hmm.
we have to eventually put like stops there.
Yeah.
We have to do it in the right way where it like uh actually benefits the creativity. And so
Yeah.
we've been figuring that out, and I think we're in a good place.
Yeah. And I do think deadlines are helpful for creatives as well. It gives a little bit more direction to the spiraling out of ideas and a little more like sort of guidance of like, because I think artists can get a little too trapped in the whole it needs to be perfect as well, but then it never gets done.
Yes.
Right? And there's the old saying like at some point done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Because like there's always going to be probably like every single work of art, there's always ways you can change it, like tweak it, improve it. But at some point, you have to say, like, this is the final product of what I'm putting out. Maybe like a year from now, I have thought of something else that could change it, but I'll take what I know and put it towards the next one.
Yeah.
And just like keep doing that and that and that. And that's how we get better with each project rather than focusing so much on getting this one perfect that it never gets done. And then all those other projects never get done either.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest lessons for me, like when I was like in film school, was I don't know if like the saying is still very like used very often, but the kill your darlings.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to like get that. I was like, why would you want to get rid of like the best moments? And I was like, oh well, if you're trying to create something cohesive, sometimes you do have to sacrifice these moments that don't
Yeah.
work toward the cohesion. Uh, I don't know if that completely ties into what you're saying, but um, I think it does because if you like are kind of chasing these like these moments that you think are like epitomize like the greatness or the perfection of what
Hmm.
you're trying to achieve, um, you never kind of get to finish the thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to sacrifice. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just trying to get the thing done instead of
Hmm.
continually like trying to like find a series of darlings, I guess you would say.
Yeah. Hmm.
It was a tough lesson for me to learn, at least, but an important one. But yeah, I mean, there's we don't I won't go into this, but I do think one note to kind of end on is like I think we are in like a weird place in the film industry where like there is a there are a lot of people making films with endless resources and like
Hmm.
the the end product is not very fulfilling for a lot of I guess like cinephiles or film people.
Hmm.
And I'm curious if we're like on the brink of like a new period of creative filmmaking that's actually going to come from
Hmm.
exactly what we're talking about, which is like very limited
Yeah.
resources, sort of micro budgets, and people being
Yeah.
forced to come up with like interesting films because what we're
Hmm.
getting is really, really high budget, unlimited resource stuff that's just not really
Yeah.
doesn't really have the integrity of like a lot of movies that I think
Hmm.
inspired filmmakers to become filmmakers.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it's just like cinephiles. I feel like everybody
Yeah.
has noticed it.
Yeah.
And it's it's a bit disheartening, but at the same time, I think we're starting to see what we saw a bit in the 90s, where these new up and coming directors with like no resources are like putting their own spins on films. We saw like different, subgenres or spins on well-known genres and tropes start coming out. And it was just such a big time for indie filmmakers. And I think that kind of went away in the 2010s, but it's kind of, it's constantly shifting back up. And I think we're back up now to where it's independent filmmakers that are having a bit more of the recognition and power in their hands.
I think
Because I
so.
think people are starting to lose trust in studios.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more faith is going to go towards filmmakers where they know at least they have the passion for that story. Because they wouldn't be working this hard for it if they didn't.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope that's the case. And the only thing I would say
Yeah.
is like in the 90s, like you had like those indie filmmakers were screening
Yeah.
in theaters uh
Yeah.
right next to like the
Yeah.
Hollywood films. And now streaming is like
I know.
really changed that.
It's very different. Yeah. It's very different.
Like yeah. I wonder how the distribution is going to play because that's going to be key. If these indie films can be like put next to each other with the like big budget films and we start seeing people
Hmm.
choose this other path more.
Yeah.
I think if they're placed side by side, you're right that it's not just cinephiles. Um, but yeah, I think right now what we're trying to do is the right path, which is
Hmm.
to me is like doing this thing with Kickstarter, which has pushed us to like run this campaign. And I think if
Yeah.
more major distribution or streaming services embrace this type of distribution for indie
Hmm.
films, maybe it's the beginning of like the 90s again. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's
Anyway,
hope so.
yeah. Any last thoughts?
Let's just get it done now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're so close.
Yeah.
So close.
I'm very excited to like finally like to see the first cut of it.
Yeah, I know.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have certainly been instrumental in this film. Let's hope that this leads to many more. And
Mhm.
thanks for talking.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
we'll be working together in the coming days. So I'll see you soon.
Yep. All right.
See you, Julie.
All right. Bye.